Sometimes we think things are going to break us. And I know that's exactly how I felt. When I come back in and I wrote 14 new chapters to this book, and I remember the Lord told me to call them the lost chapters. And they were lost because I wasn't ready to share them. They were lost because they felt so private. They're lost because in such a public space, I don't really got many things that are just mine. That's why I don't share my kids much or my family much, because I don't really have a lot that I can just hold that the world don't see. So it's very personal. But I just wanted to give you a message today and tell you that the hardest chapter I wrote in this book was called 1054. If you're not from a law enforcement family, you may not know what 1054 is, but this book is full of Easter eggs, and I hope that you find them all. I feel like my audience is really smart, and I think that you will. But I bring it up because I want to tell you that I didn't have my father's ashes when he passed. We weren't really invited to the space to do it, and that was okay. I understood that. That was all right. Everybody was grieving in their own way, and a complex grief is really hard. It's hard for you when you're a child and you can't control what happened. It's hard when you're the family and you can't control what happened. And even though it felt like a great divide, it was okay because I was able to bury my father my own way. I was able to put ashes into something beautiful. And I hope that when you read this, or you see it on your shelf, or you cross it on Amazon, or you just see somebody holding it up and talking about it, I hope that it reminds you that if I can go back into the doors that broke me, or even the new doors that I really was not looking forward to walking through, I hope that you know that you can too. I finally talked about losing my best friend 2 years ago. I still miss her. I cry about it almost every day. That's not a complex grief. That's a God, why? Why not that old turd down the road that's... Not really. I don't want anything to happen to anybody. But she was such a good one. Loved the Lord so much. She was only 38. Finally went back. I went back to my childhood home. The good things that I don't really want to talk about because they're so painful to think. At one time, there were good things on that farm. One time there was a girl and her sister and her mom, and that's what the last 14 chapters are about. The parts that I really have the hardest time talking about. But I tell you that to tell you this. If you were to ask my editor and one of my best friends about just how hard this was, I'd tell you that when somebody come back and said, listen, you should work on chapter XYZ. I said, no, I can't. I will break. I can't. And I knew I couldn't. I knew it was done. I just couldn't go back one more time. But now it's done. And in the future, I'm so excited about writing about now. I have a nickname in the literary world, and it's Faulkner. If you don't know who William Faulkner is, he wrote very deep and raw and honest, and it was beautiful, but it was tragic. But it also made you hopeful, because if you had a tragically beautiful life, you could understand. Sometimes I get tired of being a Christian William Faulkner. Sometimes I want to be Dr. Seuss. Sometimes I want to be Maya Angelou, and I want to write about the beautiful parts of the ugly things and not so much the relatable traumas and the beauty that comes out, because they're a little different. I want to talk about my kids, and I want to talk about my husband, and I want to talk about the work the Lord's let me do. But I couldn't do that until I did this. So if the Lord's asking you to write a book, to do a thing, to talk about the thing that you don't want to talk about and it feels so private, it might not be the right time, but that time will come. And when it does, I want you to remember, I've wrote almost 300 books in my life. I know everybody in traditional publishing, and that's not a flex, it's just a small world. And I'm going to tell you right now that if you just get it out, it's going to help somebody. If the Lord told you to do it, you be obedient. It don't matter what anybody else says. You lay it out there, because my story ended up good, and I know that yours will too. Keep doing what the Lord calls you to do, And don't let anybody scare you off of that, not even yourself. You hear me, Pippi Longstocking? It's quite an adventure to do the scary thing. Be brave, girl. Be brave, boy. Being brave has changed my life, and being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing that shit anyway. And I know that you can do that. I'm convinced that you can do that.